actually brings up an interesting example. There was a hockey romance written by Don DeLillo decades ago. It was under a pen name.
Incredible.
And hockey romance, for those who don't know, is really big. It's having a moment. And he never wanted to reissue this book. And until now, there was never a reason to reissue it. But apparently, because the New York Times brought attention to it, used copies went crazy. You now have to pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get your hands on a copy. And so someone convinced Don DeLillo, maybe his editor, I don't know, to reissue it. Just take the money, Don.
Yeah.
Let us do it. And they're reissuing it. So if you can show that sort of like market enthusiasm for this book, it's easy to find someone to take it.
Hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Elly Blue, the Vice President of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers, so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we welcome back Jane Friedman of The Bottom Line to bring us all of the publishing news that is fit to hear about. And this week, we have a reader question, which is, a book that I love is out of print. How do I bring that book back to print? And I think this person is not a publisher, but is literally, well, maybe it's actually a little bit unclear. I think they just love this book and want other people to be able to read this book, which I guess is sort of like what drives someone to become a publisher.
So, I mean, the first step is figuring out, is it still under copyright? If it was published a really long time ago, it could have fallen into the public domain. So especially if it's like in this really gray area between the 1930s and the 1960s, if the copyright wasn't renewed, it may have fallen into the public domain. And in that event, this person, if they really love this book, they could actually reissue it themselves if they want to be a publisher. If it's still under copyright, you need to figure out who holds the rights. It's probably the author. Are they still alive? If they're dead, then the copyright typically extends beyond their lifespan because of copyright law. And so you have to figure out who inherited the rights or who has the estate, et cetera. And then see if they're willing to either reissue it themselves, if there is some sort of estate, or if they're willing to assign you the rights to do it. The other thing, like let's say you're not a publisher and you have no interest in reissuing this yourself, then you need to figure out, all right, who originally published it? Is it a publisher that's still around? Do they recognize that there might be some potential here, that there's still a market? I'm assuming this person is like maybe symbolic of a community that would like to see this book come back, and see if you can't convince the original publisher, if they still exist, to pick it up again.
We built this software from scratch to solve our own problems starting in 2001.
It's not only the reason for our survival, but the reason we've been a Publishers Weekly fastest growing publisher 3 years in a row.
Now we want to share it with you.
Join Working Lit and get back the agency to understand your publishing business, market and sell your books, and painlessly pay royalties.
Working Lit, doing the math for publishers.
Visit workinglit.com to give it a try for free.
Most likely that publisher does not exist anymore, or they decided it's not worth it. So then you have to think about, is there anyone else? Like there are certain publishers that do specialize in reissues and bringing back things that have fallen out of print. Lots of ways to figure that out. I think Publishers Marketplace would be my favorite choice to do a little bit of searching, because they announce imprints and initiatives where publishers are trying to bring back old favorites. It really depends on the genre and the category, which publisher you might be exploring. But one thing to look at, you'll have to prove market demand for it. So one way to do that is to look at the used marketplace and see what are copies selling for.
The original publisher was 10-Speed Press, who kind of still exists. They're now an imprint of Penguin Random House. No longer the independent publisher they were when they published this book. So I'm guessing that is part of the shift in editorial focus and or lack of market demand. Hard to say which. I did not pull the numbers, but I did research for roughly 1 minute.
So if it was from 10 Speed, I'm sure the book is likely still under copyright and you have to do some research on that author and why haven't they reissued it? Usually when authors come to me with my book's out of print, my publisher, doesn't want to do it again, et cetera. I can't find someone else to take it. I don't have an agent. It's this sad story of an orphaned work. I say, just put it out yourself. That's what you do these days. You just do it yourself. I mean, the Authors Guild has a guide for how to do it. The Authors Alliance has a free guide for how to do it. So it's not rocket science. I mean, you may not be able to do like an audiobook edition unless you have some money to invest, but you can certainly get a print on demand and an ebook up readily enough. You just, the tools are there, use them.
Have we done this before? I know you've had me research copyrights before when we were like, we can't get this book anymore, find out who the author is and their contact info.
Because we are both a distributor and a publisher. So when we are often the first to know, we often will find out before the author does when their book is put out of print.
Yeah.
And so then we have this delicate opportunity where we can go and say, like, your book is out of print. Can we republish it? And they're like, surely you are mistaken. My publisher loves me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And this has happened dozens of times because, like the people in customer service, they don't care that they're giving out this potentially sensitive information. Our industry is run by billionaires and conglomerates.
At Microcosm, we wanted the freedom to independently sell our books, easily pay royalties, manage our inventory, and understand our business all in one place.
That's why we've been using our own software since 2001.
Now, we want to share it with you.
Working Lit is the only business success software that is created and owned 100% by publishers for publishers.
Join Working Lit and get the agency you need to help your business grow.
Visit workinglit.com to try it for free.
Right. So have you ever picked up books that way? Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So does this person who's asking the question, do you think they're hoping you'll pick up this book?
That's a great question. I mean, as a social manipulation experiment, I give them 2 thumbs up. I'm not sure that we will, but I love the gesture.
Can we give a shout out to the specific book in case one of our listeners is like, oh, that's perfect for me?
Oh, you're right. It is How to Live Well Without Owning a Car, which, again, a book I love.
Yeah.
Maybe PRH will reissue it. We'll never know.
I'm also going to go out on a very short limb and say that author's going to answer your email.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend is I would reach out to the author and find out what it is from their perspective, because maybe they're like, oh, I've been meaning to overhaul that book for 10 years.
Oh, right. So it was written maybe before the environment had changed around that issue. Yeah. Like Uber.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
Ooh.
That is what, and definitely it was written before that. I don't know exactly when, but yeah.
Yeah, bike share.
I find too that half the time when you reach out to an author in that, if you don't have a relationship, they think you're one of those publishing scams.
Yeah. Right? What a shame.
And so when you're like legitimately like, I will pay you this advance and put the book back in print, they're always a little bit like, I get so many of these emails. You can't fool me.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And it's like you don't want to be too forward and excited because then you just look more like a scam.
Yeah.
But alas.
Well, authors beware, but also, real non-scams are out there.
Yeah. I mean, and we had one great example where our best-selling author recommended a book to us and we reached out to the author via his website. And the reason was like she said the book kept getting stolen from her waiting room because people liked it so much and that we should reissue it, so we reached out and it was pretty much that exact same situation. And it did take years, but then the author finally was like, okay, this one reads the least like a scam, so I'm at least going to write you back. Which I was like, please. And so we have this running joke now for like more than a decade where I'm like, oh, you never sent us your publishing fee.
And then we published the book, which is How Not to Kill Yourself by Set Sites.
Which the audiobook just recouped today. So
terrific.
also great. All formats now have recouped several times over, multiple editions. Very successful book, very needed, unfortunately.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
On Twitter at Microcosm,
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
on Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.